Today you're going to learn how to simplify square roots using the square root property. We're going to start with a very basic one today, and then tomorrow I'll build on that, and then the next day we'll build on that, and so on, until Friday when you take a quiz. So the first thing you need to know is the terminology, things I'm going to say a lot. So the symbol right here is not called a check mark thingy or anything like that. It's called a radical sign. So we will call that a radical sign. You'll hear me say under the radical. That's referring to this number right here, okay? And the number under the radical does have a special name called the radicand. My dad joke is, it radicand, not radicant. Ha ha. I know you miss them. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the number, the radicand, and you're going to create a factor tree of prime factors. And I'll show you how to do that with the example. But just to review our prime numbers, those are numbers that nothing goes into them except one in itself. And the first several prime numbers are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, and 23. So you might want to write those down so you know some numbers to try and divide with. You will need your calculator for this as well. Even if it's just a regular calculator on your phone, that'll work for this. So the first thing you're going to do after you make your factor tree is you're going to list all those prime numbers in your tree, and I'll show you what I mean by that. You're then going to circle pairs of numbers. That means two of the same number. If you have 2 3s, you'll circle it. If you have 2 5s, you'll circle it. But remember, there'll always be prime numbers that you're circling. You will then take one number from each pair, one number from the pair. So if I circle 2 3s, I'm only going to take one of those 2 3s, and that's going to go outside the radical sign. It's going to go outside the radical sign. You will then multiply whatever's left over that you did not circle as pairs and put it back underneath. And remember, the key there is you're going to multiply things. A lot of things are multiplying. Multiplying and dividing is the big thing here. So we're going to go down to our first example. I'm going to try to zoom in on it here. The first example is the square root of 96. So your factor tree, everybody's factor tree could look completely different. So I'm going to show you a factor tree. So you say to yourself, okay, I got this number 96. The first thing you want to do in your calculator is see if it's a perfect square. To determine that, you're going to hit second x squared. And if you're using your cell phone, I think you have to type the number first and then the square root sign. And then you'll actually type the number in, and it was 96. When I hit enter, I get a decimal. Decimals are not allowed in this section, so you have to do more. So since it is a decimal, I know I need to do a factor tree. So I'm going to take 96, and you can pick any of the prime numbers up here to see if it's divisible. I just always start with the smallest one, just because it makes life a little easier. But if you know something goes into it, you can use that. So I'm going to do 96 divided by 2. And it does go in evenly. You need numbers that go in evenly, no decimals. So 96 divided by 2 would be 2 and 48. And as I go, every time I get to a prime number, I'm going to underline it. And that's so I don't lose it in a few minutes. Then I'm going to, 48 is not prime. So I'm going to do 48 divided by 2. Once again, you can try 3 or 5 or 7 or 11. You can try any of those numbers at the top. Doesn't matter. And I see I got 24. So you have 2 and 24. I'm going to underline that 2. Then I know this is 2 and 12. And I'm going to underline that 2. And then this is 2 and 6. I'm going to underline that 2. And then this one is 2 and 3. And those are prime. So what's going to happen is you're going to have all underlined numbers. You're not going to have anything that has branches coming off of it. That's how you know you've done the prime factorization. That means that every number is prime that we're dealing with. Then over on the side, you're going to make a list of those prime numbers. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s. And I have a 3 also. Now, this will vary. Sometimes you'll have more numbers in your list. Sometimes you'll have less. Just kind of depends. Then what you're going to do is, oh, just to show you that it doesn't matter what your tree looks like, I did a bunch of others of the same number. So I could take 96. Remember, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s and a 3. Here's a different prime factorization. Oh, no, that's the one we just did. Sorry, that was my original. Here's a different one. I said 96 divided by 6 is 16. 6 is 2 and 3. 16 is 2 and 8. 2 and 4. 2 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s and 1 3. So notice my tree is completely different, and that's okay. I did do one more just to show you that it does work no matter which numbers you pick in there, as long as they go in evenly. So I did 3 and 32, 4 and 8, 2 and 2, 2 and 4, 2 and 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s and 1 3. So as long as this list is the same for everybody, then you did it right. I know there's no comparing right now because we're kind of alone in this, but you can always ask me to check your lists and things, and I can do that. Keep in mind, I can look at your document if it's not submitted while you are working on it, and I can actually answer questions in the document if you've already opened it. That is a really cool thing we have with Schoology and Google, that I can open your document and I can help you while you're working. You just have to let me know. So after you make your list here, you will then circle pairs of the same number. I have 2 2s. I have 2 2s. Now this is a pair of numbers, but it has to be the same number. That's the big key there. So since they're not the same, I'm not gonna circle them. So now I'm going to take 1 2 from this circle and 1 2 from this circle. I only want one of each and multiply it. 2 times 2 is 4. So just to show you where that came from, 2 times 2 is 4. That number goes on the outside of the radical. Any numbers that are left over, you will multiply, and 2 times 3, which is 6, goes back inside the radical. So my final answer is 4 square root of 6. Okay, number 2 we're going to do again together, and then I'm going to let you try number 3, and then we need to talk about number 4. This is kind of a longer video, but I've got a lot to say here. So the square root is 216. Once again, you can start with any number in that prime number list. Oh, first let's see if it's a perfect square. Second, x squared 216 is in fact a decimal, therefore I must do a factor tree. 216. 216 divided by 2 is 108. This tree could get kind of long. 2 and 54. 54 divided by 2. I'm actually going to use 6 here just to make my tree a little nicer. 6 and 9. Remember, it does not matter what numbers you use up there from that prime list, as long as it goes in evenly. So my list will, and I underline all my primes as I go, which I forgot to do. So I have 1, 2, 3 2s and 1, 2, 3 3s. So I have 1, 2, 3 2s and 1, 2, 3 3s. Now, just to show you, it does not matter, once again, which numbers you use. There's one where I chose 8 to begin with. And I still have 1, 2, 3 2s and 1, 2, 3 3s. And one more just to kind of show you. I decided to try 12, which isn't prime, but that's okay. It goes into it. That's just going to have a branch off of it as well. And then 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 6 and 2 and 3. And I have 1, 2, 3 2s and 1, 2, 3 3s. So you'll see that my numbers in my list will always match. Then you're going to circle your pairs. In this case, I have a pair of 2s and a pair of 3s. I'm going to multiply one of each. 2 times 3 is 6. One number from each pair. And it says it up here. One number from each pair. Don't multiply them all together. And then your leftovers, in this case, happen to work out the same. The leftovers are 2 and 3, which is 6. So this one is 6. Square root of 6 is my final answer. Go ahead and jot down the square root of 72 and see if you can give that one a try on your own. And I'll show the answer in just a minute. Go ahead and pause the video. Write it down, pause the video, give it a try, see if you can get the same thing. Even if your factor tree is different, your list of numbers will be the same. So pause the video. All right, let's see how you did. Did you get 6 square root of 2? If you got that, you did it correctly. Now, when you get to the classwork in a few minutes, you're not going to be asked to write your factor trees. However, you will be asked to write your list of numbers. So you don't have to circle them on the screen. I'm going to be looking for your list of numbers and your final answer. Now, in order to put a square root sign in your Chromebook, you have to go to Insert at the top of the Google Docs, and then you're going to go to Equation at the top of the Google Docs. If you did the assignment from the 3-day week that we had, you did this. I just wanted to refresh your memory. And when you insert that equation, you want to look for the one that's the square root symbol to do. You'll put your number in first. So I would type the 6, then select the square root button, and then the 2 to put my final answer in there. If you get stuck on this, please ask. Please don't use the symbol for square root. Please use the equation. I will send it back to you if you don't. So I'm going to be looking for your list and this. All right, let's take a look at the last one. This one's actually the easiest one, the square root of 144. Remember what I said at the beginning. Always test it in the calculator first to see if it is a perfect square. If it is, you're actually done. So let's take a look at the square root of 144 in the calculator. And if I hit enter, I get a whole number. If you get a whole number, that is your final answer. That whole number. Do not put it back in a radical. It does not go under a radical. It does not go under a radical. I'll say that 1,000 times and somebody will still do it. It is not the square root of 12. It is just 12. Please send me a message if you have any questions. We'll cover these last 2 tomorrow. So if you have any questions about this, please send me a message. Go ahead and give the assignment a try. Send me a note if you need me to hop into the assignment and check in of your answers before you submit them. I can give you feedback before you turn it in. It's totally up to you. You might feel confident in it and just turn it in. So let me know if you need anything.